The following is a production of Stevenson Media. Want to tip the host? Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Get a free Houston Sports State of the Union podcast t-shirt with a donation of $50 or more.
This is the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Houston Sports Nation, Nick Stevenson.
Thank you. Please be seated. My fellow Houstonians, welcome to this Houston Sports State of the Union address for the week of June the 19th? Nope, 16th. Sorry about that. June the 16th. I am the self-appointed president of Houston Sports Nation, Nick Stevenson, and it is my great pleasure for you to join me today. As always, there's a million different things you could be doing today, but you chose to spend a little bit of time with me, and I appreciate it. Today, once again, not a lot going on in Houston sports, but the NBA Finals are finally over. Dallas lost. If you're a Houston sports fan, that's got to make you very happy. We can finally look forward to this NBA draft that we've been talking about for the last 2 months. I'm looking forward to that. I also have a special guest today. Now, Prescott Kelly is coming on to talk about an outsider's perspective on Houston sports. And one of the reasons I got this idea is my brother invited me to a Facebook group called AFC South Warzone. And it's probably the second most toxic place on the internet right now. Nothing could be more toxic. Nothing could be more toxic than Twitter, but it's definitely toxic. But Prescott Kelly's coming on the show. We're going to talk AFC South, what the perspective of Houston sports is, and then we have some unsettled debates that we definitely need to settle once and for all. So I appreciate the fact that he's coming on. I'll be introducing him in just a second. Before I do that, though, I want to remind you of the ways you can support the show. One of them you're doing right now. You're listening. Hopefully you're watching. Hopefully you're sharing. Hopefully you're telling all your friends. You're hitting follow. You're hitting like. You're hitting subscribe. And if you do that, that's the biggest way you can support me, and I appreciate it. Also, there's a tip jar. Right there's the link. There's also a link in the description. And then I have the affiliate links in the description as well for Houston Sports fan gear and for podcast equipment that I'm using. If you would like to purchase any of that, I'll get some change from it. And then, of course, sponsorship. I have one more spot available if you're interested. hsstateoftheunionpod@gmail.com. Those are all the ways you can support financially. But if you're just listening and just watching, that is plenty for me. Okay, now I do want to introduce my special guest, Prescott Kelly of the Choppin It Up with PScott podcast. If you listen to this show, you are familiar with this gentleman, you're familiar with his work, but I encourage you to find his links, find his podcast, go listen to it. It's a great listen. He talks all things sports, but also all things life. And I think that's what we love about him the most, is that he's a man who can wear many hats. Prescott, thank you so much for joining me, man. How's it going?
Good, man. I'm a river to my people and the people who listen. I hope they know that.
Absolutely, man.
For the low followers, but I'm a river to my people.
Beautiful, man. Thank you so much for joining me, man. It's been a long time coming. You've had me on your show twice. Once it was really bad. Once it was pretty good. So I appreciate you finally being here. And you've called in. So like I said, if you've listened to this show on the regular basis, then people know who you are. But I want to give you an opportunity to plug your show, plug your sponsor, Dubby Energy. My apologies. Go ahead and tell the people who you are, what you do, and what you're about, man.
Yeah, no, man, I appreciate it. I don't think that you and I have ever had a bad episode in our entire lives. It's bad to us because we're perfectionists, and
right.
that's kind of what we do, but it's always fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So, w.gg.com, or I'm sorry, www.wgg is DUBBY. Hydration and energy. Use promo code PScott, PSCOTT, for 10% off of your online purchase, along with Millions, just regular millions.co. You can follow me there. Get a hoodie like I'm rocking right now. It is very self-absorbed. I know that, but
it's got your own face on it. I like that. I need one of those.
I follow the footsteps of Nick Stevenson having the Houston Sports Unit, but it's got my face on it, and it's weird because I don't like being that shallow and selfish, but I was doing it.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
bought one, and it was comfy as hell, and I decided to do it.
My guy, this is what we got to do. We got to do a jersey swap of sorts. We got to do a merchandise swap, of course.
That is a great idea.
Yeah,
Because I have one of your hoodies.
And you do, and it's my turn to support you.
Podcast.
Yes, you do, and it's my turn to support you. So I hope we can do that soon. Matter of fact, whenever we're done, man, we'll work that out and we'll make it happen. But yeah, and then W Energy, is that like a alternative to some of the more dangerous energy drinks? Like, what's the deal with W? I've never had it. It's powdered.
Yeah, I never had either, but yeah, there's no caffeine, there's no crash. Anything. Like I showed my son what I got as far as the endorsement package from them, and he's like, "Can I have that?" And I was like, "I don't know if it's safe for a 9-year-old. It says not safe for kids. It also says no caffeine. I don't know, but there's supposedly no crash and stuff." And I'm not going to say like I've used it and I know definitively what it does and operates with, but from what it says, there's no crash. It's a very mellow energy drink. Just like keep you hydrating, keep you going throughout the day. They also have different powders and canned energy drinks and everything of that nature. But they sent me a swag bag today where I had 2 different mixers.
I saw that.
3 different things. Yeah, it was dope. It was nice.
That's really cool.
I'm going to use it tomorrow when I know I'm going to be tired as hell because I get 2 hours of sleep per day.
Yeah, man, definitely. I think I know how that feels, and I think I would love to support you, man. So I think I'll have to go ahead and use that promo code PScott and get you said 10% off?
10% off.
Get the hookup. All right, man. Yeah, man, I'll give it a try for sure because I don't drink a lot of energy drinks. I used to drink the hell out of them, but they started making me feel terrible. So if I can find something that's a little bit safer to use, and then I'm down for it, man. And so I think it's cool that you can just add it to water.
Less in Texas than it was Alaska.
What's that?
I'm also sure that shipping will be less to Texas. Than
I imagine so. But I thank you so much for joining me, man, all the way from the last frontier. I'm curious to get an Alaskan's perspective, and I want to let the people know you were born here in Texas. How long were you here before you moved?
It was kind of an off and on experience. So I was born in Abilene, Texas. And
Abilene, okay.
I moved to Japan because my dad was in the Air Force. So I went there. Then I went to Randolph, like elementary school or whatever. So I was in that area. But yeah, so I was off and on for a few years. But I think I lived in Texas for about 4 or 5 years, I guess.
Long enough to learn how to smoke them ribs. That's for sure.
Yo. I gotta ask you a question about the whole pickled Dr. Pepper thing later.
It's not a thing. It's completely fake.
No, it's a real thing.
Who was drinking pickled Dr. Pepper?
The reason why I know it's real is because my coworker went to Sonic that was across the street from where my dealership is.
Yeah.
Went across the street and asked for it. And they're like, this is what it is, though. But also, Alaska can't do anything correct that Texas is supposed to do anyways. So
I don't know anybody in Texas doing that, man. But we should talk about that. We'll get into that. But I definitely want to get your perspective on some things that are going on in the sports landscape. We're going to talk about sports from an outsider's perspective, but kind of through the lens, still keeping in with the Houston sports State of the Union. So while we're at it, let's go ahead and do the state of the Houston Texans. Okay, I said in the intro that my brother invited me to this Facebook group. It's called AFC South Warzone. It's all Titans, all Jaguars, all Colts, all Texans fans. Just all talking unmitigated shit to one another. It is the most toxic environment I've been on, like I said, other than Twitter. But it's also a little bit entertaining. And from an outsider's perspective, it kind of has me curious because let's keep it real. Like the AFC South, other than one team here and there, has mostly sucked for a very long time. And so, but you go in there and it's amazingly, because the Houston Texans won the AFC South, we are the number one target in this group now. CJ's a bum. All the Colts fans are saying they own the Texans. Titans live rent-free in our heads, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, like I said, at some point, the AFC South has just not been a very good division. I'm a logical enough fan to know that, but I'm just curious from the outside perspective, you being a Bills fan, what is your perception of not just the Houston Texans, but the AFC South in general? Do you even think about us?
Look, man, I always have a space for Houston, man.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Dude, you and I can't have the same birthday in the same year. Like, I can't not have love for Houston.
I
Along
feel
with
you.
Paul Wall was my first concert I ever saw up in Alaska.
Oh, snap.
So-
Paul Wall went to Alaska?
Yeah,
I didn't know
you
that.
You can check them receipts. That was a thing that happened in real time, bro. And I was there for
Dang.
it.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, so the AFC South, though, that's not a division that the mainstream media is highly focused on most of the time, right? So what about the fans?
No, and no disrespect, it largely shouldn't be, because like the top names are really the AFC North, the AFC West because of the Chiefs, and the AFC East now because the Patriots have been so dominant for a decade and a half or 2 decades and a half now, and the Bills have kind of run that division as well. So I understand why the AFC South has been kind of dismissed, if you will.
Me too.
But the Texans, what I always worry about, and I'm not saying that CJ Stroud is going to fall in this trap, but what I'm always worried about is you get 1 year, that's awesome, and then next year they get tape on you, or you get an offensive coordinator that's different, or a new head coach that's different, because Jacksonville, and we're not talking about this directly, but indirectly, Trevor Lawrence just got paid a bag and has had multiple head coaches, multiple offensive coordinators, and his numbers are similar to Daniel Jones, who he all thinks are cheeks.
100%.
And more than him even. So that division there's been so much turmoil and there's been so much turnover in the coaching staffs and quarterbacks and stuff like that. Like, I understand where there can be some trepidation, but if I have to be completely honest, I do, and this isn't just me pandering to you because I love you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this isn't me pandering to Texas, but Houston to me seems like, but you always have to worry like the guy like Robert Woods. He's on the back end of his career. He was one of those and I don't like doing this whole when we have an old cagey vet, we want to make them better than they are. But when that guy leaves, it's Nico Collins, it's Tank Dell, and then who else? So I don't want to completely dismiss Robert Woods entirely, but it's also he does mean something to a degree. But Houston to me seems like they're especially with Stingley Jr. But what I have to worry about with Houston is that you might be the new Bengals of the AFC South, but with different positions, because they outkick their coverage with all the wide receivers. And now they're running into the same issues with T. Higgins and everything like that. And if you outkick your coverage and don't have great front office to be able to know when to cut bait with people, you might be back to irrelevancy. And it's not your fault because the AFC is just stacked. It's not a Houston problem. It's an AFC problem more than anything else, I believe.
There you go. For sure. So I would say that me being a realist, I've always known, even when the Texans were winning the division on a regular basis, I knew our division was weak. And that's why I never kind of fell for the okie doke. Like, I remember when we went 12-4 with Deshaun Watson, I was like, and that season, that was what, 2020? That season and 2011.
Is it 11?
No, 2011 was when Matt Schaub got hurt. I'm going way back. I'm saying the only 2 seasons I've really felt the Texans had a legitimate shot of winning a Super Bowl was it was either 2019 or 2020 with Deshaun Watson when we lost to the Kansas City Chiefs after being up 24-0. I don't want to think about that. But and then 2011, those are the only 2 seasons that I, as a realistic fan, thought, man, we really have a shot to win the Super Bowl. And I feel like the majority of Texans fans are very realistic, unlike some of our friends to the north of us. But what I will say is that, to me, the perception, and I agree, I think that the AFC South is definitely better now than it has been in several years. And I think this year it has the potential to be pretty good. And I wanted to talk about that because one of the arguments in this group is who has the best quarterback. Can you believe there are actually Jacksonville Jaguars fans in this group claiming that Trevor Lawrence, forget the best quarterback, that he's a good quarterback, period.
He's
so
fine.
You brought up that he just got a bag, and he did. Trevor Lawrence got what? $275 million, 200 guaranteed,
Dude,
142 million at signing, and they gave this dude a no trade clause.
Yep. That's state. Yo, between you and Texas, that's state tax. That is a loophole, dog.
So he's making 55 mil a year, just like Joe Burrow. And this is going to be a good segue into one of our unsettled debates. You actually could be a segue into two of our unsettled debates because
I have been dodging. I have been dodging it. I just keep forgetting because I have so many topics that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And so many topics that people bring up to me. And I do, but I know exactly where you're going.
We have two unsettled debates. One of them is how you go about building a Super Bowl contender. And the other is whether or not you should pay quarterbacks the money that the market dictates that you pay quarterbacks. Now, let me just state my position is that if you have the quarterback, you pay him. I believe yours is if you don't pay the quarterback unless he's an all-time world beater like Patrick Mahomes. Correct? Let me know if I'm misquoting because
I'm smirking, and if you're watching live, it sounds like I'm conceding to this, but I'm not.
Okay. Well, you explain to me your take. This is number one. We're gonna go with this debate first about paying the quarterback versus not paying the quarterback.
So,
what is your opinion on paying the quarterback?
The thing is, there can be a difference between understanding why an organization does it and does it actually make sense. So, like with Trevor Lawrence with the Jags, that
one doesn't either. That one doesn't make sense, and you can't explain it.
No, but see, I'm going to be more harsh on the Jaguars this time because they've already seen this movie beforehand, and they did it with Blake Bortles already.
Mm-hmm.
You had a great offensive line, you had a weak division, and a great run game. And guess what? You paid Blake Bortles, and you haven't, and I could be wrong on this, but your management is still the same people. It's still bulky, right? The person who paid.
I believe so.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I believe so.
But even still, if I'm not, you still did the same thing. You do the same dumb thing
right.
that fans want ownership to do. It's like, well, this guy got us here. We can only pay him because the quarterback's responsible. No, he's not. Blake Bortles wasn't then, and Trevor Lawrence isn't now. But I do believe that Trevor Lawrence is better than Blake Bortles. But when it comes to paying quarterbacks, I know that you've brought it to my attention that there are other quarterbacks besides just Patrick Mahomes who have won on rookie deals. That is true.
Mm-hmm. That's another debate. We'll get into that one.
I know we will, but my whole thing is, if we're doing a sample size of quarterbacks who have actually won versus quarterbacks who have been drafted in the first round who were supposed to and then still got paid who weren't supposed to, what does that pie chart look like? It's probably pretty big.
Okay.
Because it's 2000 is like the kind of the benchmark, right? That's kind of what we're doing. And
yeah, let's see. I don't want to because I don't want to mix in the two arguments because
that's fair.
I think we might actually end up arguing against ourselves when we're arguing those two things at the same time. So my thing is the thing is that this Trevor Lawrence case actually proves the point that you've been trying to make, is that teams are stupid for paying their quarterbacks. Because I believe you're stupid for paying Trevor Lawrence, making him the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Well,
there are some, and I understand that in some ways you have to let the market dictate what you're going to pay the quarterback. But for me, Trevor Lawrence has not done anything near enough. Like, he didn't even, you brought up Daniel Jones, and I'm glad you brought that up because I actually had a graphic, and I'll show it one more time. In the first 48 starts, their yards are almost the same. Their yards per attempt are almost the same. Trevor Lawrence has 66 touchdowns. Daniel Jones had 64. 35 interceptions for Lawrence, only 33 for Jones. 20 lost fumbles for Trevor Lawrence, 21 for Daniel Jones. 85.5 quarterback rating for Trevor Lawrence, and an 85.4. They're the same quarterback. And here's the thing. Daniel Jones got paid too, though, man. So
in the year before him.
Yeah, he got paid too. So here's my thing, though. I believe if you have a good quarterback play in the NFL, like, let's keep it real, it's tough to come by. There's 30 teams. How many of those teams do you think are happy with their starting quarterback right now?
And you make an interesting point, because that's the whole thing is.
Or 32. There's 30. How many teams
There's
are there?
32.
There's
Yeah,
32 teams. I'm sorry.
30 NBA teams. Yeah.
32 teams. How many of those do you think are happy with their starting quarterback
That's
today?
the problem, is that there's one who's happy, and that's Kansas City. Everybody else thinks they're happy, and then everybody else.
You think Kansas City's the only team happy with their quarterback?
Yes, because
the Bengals aren't happy with Joe Burrow.
I know that they think that they are, but I know that they also don't know. Because let's be serious. If you're talking about
they don't know if Joe Burrow's going to be good or not.
No, I know. No. That's not the whole thing.
Okay.
I know that he's good. That's the problem, though, bro. Is like, I know that he's good. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
He's also had a more talented wide receiving core, and they've been to one Super Bowl. And you know me, man. I don't put a lot of stock into Super Bowls and championships. Like, if the eye test will tell me, and you. Bro, I saw your smirk, dog. I saw your smirk.
No, this is that moment where you start arguing with yourself, so I'm letting you. Go for it.
No, as a Bills fan, you know I have a certain tolerance for losing, because the Bills are my team, and because Charles Barkley is my favorite player of all time. I kind of have this, But to think that Joe Burrow is better than Patrick Mahomes when they've won back-to-back Super Bowls without the best wide receiver in football.
I don't think anybody thinks Joe Burrow is better than Patrick Mahomes, though.
No. But that's kind of my point, though. Is like, you're gonna pay Joe Burrow like he's Patrick Mahomes, but even with the best wide receiving core in football, which they had 2 years ago,
because
couldn't do anything.
Who do you have a better chance of beating Patrick Mahomes with, Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield?
Hold on.
Who do you have a better chance of beating?
Hold on. So
Patrick Mahomes with him or Baker Mayfield?
No. I'm not doing this. You can't tell me, like, who would you rather have as a quarterback, Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow? Of course I want Joe Burrow. But
okay.
What are the other mitigating circumstances? What are those, though?
Well, I'm just talking about straight up the quarterback position. Like, you have a bird right now. You draft Joe Burrow. He gets you to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, he doesn't win it. Okay, but he beat Patrick Mahomes to get there. So you know he's capable of beating Patrick Mahomes, at least. At minimum, you know he's capable of it. He's done enough in his career to let you know he is a top 5 quarterback. Another top 5 quarterback, like, you might find one in the draft. You don't know that. Like, you have the bird in the hand right now. You have the bird in the hand. You have a guy who you know is, at least there's a possibility, if everything goes right and you're the hot team, or like, so Patrick Mahomes has lost the Super Bowl. He's lost an AFC Championship game. So you have a bird in the hand. You're telling me that guy says, I want $55 million, and you tell him, no, I'm sorry, you're not Patrick Mahomes. I'm not giving you $55 million.
No, this is where I've already told you, man, like, I understand why teams do it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't, because I'd rather build.
Perfect. What would you do? You have a $255 million salary cap. Who you giving the money to? Like, tell me how you're divvying that up.
You can't give it to one person.
No, you can't.
But that, okay. So
and that's That's why I said we are in danger of arguing against ourselves if we combine these two arguments.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we'll get into it later.
No, I want to do it now.
No.
I
want to talk. I want to talk about the quarterback part first.
I want an Oompa Loompa now.
I'm just saying, dude. Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts gets you to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, he loses. You're telling me you let him play? First of all, these quarterbacks aren't going to go all the way to their fifth year option without getting an extension. They'll hold out. They'll sit.
Correct.
They'll be unhappy. They probably won't play well, even if they do play. So, as an owner, they're eligible for their extension, after their first 3 seasons? What I'm telling you is that you got the bird in the hand. You pay that guy because somebody else will if you don't.
Bullshit.
Except for Trevor Lawrence. I don't think anybody else would give him $55 million.
So let me ask you this. You think that Trevor Lawrence is the floor? If we're talking about first round quarterbacks who have been taken, who are eligible for an extension, you think that he is the floor for everybody who's got one?
Which year is he in right now?
Huh?
Which year is he in right now? I can't remember.
It should be his 4th.
Okay.
But so
I would make Trevor Lawrence play through his 5th year option.
So Daniel Jones got paid before him, but he also got drafted before him. But you think Daniel Jones is more deserving of his money than Trevor
No, not at all.
Lawrence?
No.
But
I would have made both of them play through their 5th year option.
But see, and this is why, like you just mentioned, we are arguing against ourselves because I wouldn't pay. I told
No, we're not though, because I'm talking about Joe Burrow versus Daniel Jones. Like, if you've got the guy, you pay him.
You were talking about Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence.
Right, same thing. I put Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones in the same category, and I just showed you guys why. I'm saying Joe Burrow, if CJ Stroud keeps up what he's doing, I understand why the Texans extended Deshaun Watson the first time. Like
the first time
before the Cleveland Browns lost their minds and gave him $230 million. But what I'm saying is, if you've got the guy, you can't say, sorry, dude, you're not Patrick Mahomes. I'm just going to let you play 5 years and then I'll draft a new quarterback.
No, but that's the whole problem, dude, is everybody thinks they have the guy.
Joe Burrow's the guy. They know that he's the guy.
Is he the
Lamar
guy?
Jackson's the guy.
Is he
They know he's the guy. Yes. What makes him not the guy? Because he's not Patrick Mahomes. No, there's only one Patrick Mahomes, and you need a guy who's at least close to Patrick Mahomes if you're ever going to beat Patrick Mahomes.
So that has been my argument the entire time, bro. So like, we try to pretend that these quarterbacks, just because Tom Brady and Drew Brees and now Aaron Rodgers, even though Aaron Rodgers is coming off his Achilles, we have no idea what's going on. There are outliers, even Kirk Cousins.
Glad you brought that up.
We are trying to say, like, well, you can just play until you're 40. Yeah, you can make money until you're 40. It doesn't mean that you're good. Those are the very, very slim outliers of this. So when it comes to Joe Burrow has been injured multiple years.
True.
So am I going to put it on? Do I trust the fact that he can just be good all the time? My answer is no. And maybe that makes me a cynical fan. Once again,
you still have a better chance of beating Patrick Mahomes with him, because you say don't pay him $55 million. Okay, you decide I'm not going to pay him $55 million. So now you got to go find what, a $20 million quarterback? Is that too much to pay? What's the right amount to pay for a quarterback in your mind? That's not Patrick Mahomes.
So the number to me it has nothing to do with number. It has to do with circumstance. Because circumstance dictates where you can go and what you can do and everything. Because we already saw, like, with Mahomes, the Chiefs traded up to get him. He wasn't the number 1 overall pick. The Bills traded, and the Chiefs got him at number 10. We've seen Mitch Trubisky went number 2, number 3. We've seen Trey Lance. We've seen all these guys who had all the tools, all the athletic ability, who could not do anything wrong. And they all flamed out.
And none of them got extended.
None of them got extended. Not one of them.
So we're not talking about the same thing. That's my point. Joe Burrow is not those guys.
No, but my point is, why would I pay $50 million for somebody who I can get very similar production from as long as the rest of the team around him is great?
If you draft Trubisky, yes, you pay somebody else. If you draft Trevor Lawrence, you should have paid somebody else. If you draft Blake Bortles, you pay somebody else. If you draft Joe Burrow, CJ Stroud, if you draft Lamar Jackson, those dudes are your only chance of beating Patrick Mahomes. Who are you going to beat Patrick Mahomes with?
They are, but they aren't. And the reason why I say this is because of one reason why right now. If you are the Ravens and you had Lamar Jackson on a rookie deal, if you're the Jaguars and you had Trevor Lawrence on a rookie deal, Josh Allen, same thing. Let me ask you this. If you had every single opportunity on their rookie deal and you couldn't figure out, what makes me think that you can figure it out once you're paying them $55 million a year and then get everything else around them correct?
Well, number one, it's hard to win.
That is my biggest opinion on this.
Yeah, but it's like winning a Super Bowl is hard. And if that's the standard, then winning a Super Bowl is hard. So my thing is that even the Chiefs, their fans may argue this. They don't go into the season knowing we're going to win the Super Bowl. They go in knowing we have a really good chance to win the Super Bowl. That's the expectation now. No, of course it is. Of course it is. And everybody else who's close to them they're still hoping. Right now you got the Ravens. I think the Texans, whether it's right or wrong, they believe they have a shot. You got the Ravens. Who else? You got, I know the Jets think they have a shot.
No, that's ridiculous.
I don't even know who the Cowboys always think they have a shot. I like the Eagles, but what I'm saying is everybody else, they're trying to get to where the Chiefs are. And this is the same argument I made when the Warriors were in the height of their power. Is everybody was just like, we're never going to beat the Warriors, so don't do anything. And the Houston Rockets are literally the only team in the league that actually tried to beat the Warriors at the height of their power. Everybody else was like, we'll just wait till their dynasty falls apart and then we'll try to build our own. And I don't like that approach. You got to take your best shot. If you lose, you lose. But for me, Joe Burrow, if he wants $55 million, or I got to pay, like I said, Baker Mayfield $20 million, who am I going to give the money to?
But see, that's the whole thing is Baker Mayfield has made multiple extensions off of being around good teams. Blake Bortles, same thing. Would I rather pay a quarterback $55 million a year who I know, and I don't want to say no because I try not to deal in hyperbole as much as I can. But if you are going to be somebody who says, I need this quarterback, but we've seen trash quarterbacks get very similar results, don't you think that $30 million-ish could be allocated more appropriately to make a better team? There are the outliers. There's always the Brett Favre. There's always the Tom Brady. There's always the Patrick Mahomes, but they come around every once in a while.
You know how many quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl taking up more than at 10% or more of their team's salary?
Dude, 10% is way different than 20%, which is what we're seeing now.
Well, no, because the price of the quarterback is going up because the salary cap's going up.
No, well, the numbers are the same though.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, I'm saying 10% or more. Not just 10% is the floor. The only quarterbacks who have taken up 10% of their salary cap or more that have won a Super Bowl is there's 4 of them. Brady did it 3 times. Peyton Manning did it twice. Matthew Stafford did it once, and then Eli Manning did it once. One of his, he was on his rookie deal. So I understand what we're saying though is that it takes, I think in either scenario, whether your quarterback's on a rookie deal or you've paid him, the Chiefs have navigated both scenarios perfectly. When they had Mahomes, when they had Mahomes on a rookie deal, they spent big money around him, put together a good team, put him in a good situation, and they won a Super Bowl. Once they gave him the bag, then they had to be smart in the draft, and they had to get young players who are cheap, who are good, and they navigated that perfectly. And that's what everybody else is trying to do. But if you've got the quarterback, dude, you got to pay him.
We'll see, and that's the thing. If you just said it, if you have the quarterback, dude, you got.
But you don't think anybody's the quarterback but Patrick Mahomes? Is Josh Allen the quarterback? Should Josh Allen make $55 million?
No, because you like to twist, dude. You like to twist my words more than almost anybody else that I know. I am not saying that Josh Allen is not a great quarterback. That is not what I'm doing.
I know you. I'm not saying that, but should you pay him
what I've said
top dollar
this year
to be your quarterback?
This year will be the ultimate victory lap for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first 2 years before they got Stephon Diggs,
right,
he was cheeks, and everybody said they reached, and he was booty juice. And then he got Stephon Diggs, and then he was an all-pro quarterback. And guess what he doesn't have right now? Stephon Diggs. So if he turns into cheeks, this is just one big Mario Andretti victory lap for me, man. And I'm going to take it more than anybody ever will know.
If CJ Stroud has 2 more really, really good seasons,
2 in a row, so last year plus 2 more,
3 good years, because that's when he's going to be eligible for his extension. If CJ Stroud puts together 3 really good seasons, the Texans are playoff teams. Let's say they make an AFC Championship game. Hell, let's say they make a Super Bowl, but they lose.
Why are you just keep layering things better?
No. What I'm saying is,
I can move the goalpost back.
No. That's the same type of first 3 years that Joe Burrow had. That's what I'm saying. If CJ Stroud has a Joe Burrow like first 3 years of his career, should the Houston Texans pay him? By that time, it's going to be like $70 million a year.
So they weren't the same though, because Burrow missed an entire year.
That's fair. What I'm saying, if he gets them to a Super Bowl in his first 3 years, they're a perennial good team. Like, it's established that he's a really good quarterback. It's established he's a top 5. Should they pay him?
You know me, I don't do top 5s. There's Mahomes and there's all sorts of stuff. But like, if
there's a top 1, then there's 5 people or 4 people after him. So there's a top 5.
No, I'm saying I don't do top 5s.
I got you.
That's me though.
I mean, I'm not saying who's in it. If he's one of the guys who has a chance to beat Mahomes, I'm never going to say nobody's better than Mahomes. I know Mahomes is the man. But even just because you're the best quarterback in the league doesn't mean you're going to win the Super Bowl every year. You have to have a really good quarterback to win a Super Bowl, though, most of the time. Unless you have an utterly amazing defense, you got to have a good quarterback. So 3 years go by. He has a Joe Burrow-esque type of success. Should he get paid? Like I said, it's going to be like $70 million by then. It's going to be something stupid.
So if you're asking me if they have the same trajectory, which obviously they can't because Stroud didn't miss his first year due to injury. But if you're asking me if he misses basically an entire year due to injury, but has a similar resume,
I'm not even factoring in the injury. Like, if he just has 3 really good years,
I still believe. Look, the thing for me is like, I don't want this to make it sound like I don't want quarterbacks to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want players to get paid, because I do. However, there is a song and dance that needs to be made between player, personnel, and people who are making those decisions. And the people who are making those decisions are mostly paying trash quarterbacks because they think that they can't lose them because the fan base says, well, the quarterback got us here, and the fans are idiots.
Okay, so I think bad teams are doing that. The Giants, the Jacksonville Jaguars, in my opinion, they paid guys who should not have gotten paid.
Jacksonville did a good job on re-signing him, though, I thought.
On Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah.
Hell no.
I thought you were caping up for him.
No, I said I would have made him. I told you the Trevor Lawrence situation helps your argument that you should not pay quarterbacks and that paying quarterbacks is stupid. I agree with that when it's Trevor Lawrence. When it's Joe Burrow, you can't not pay Joe Burrow because he's not Patrick Mahomes. You can't not pay CJ Stroud because he's not Patrick Mahomes. If you say, hey, I'm sorry, CJ, but you didn't win the Super Bowl your first year as a starter, I can't pay you. Like, that's just not realistic. So if you have the guy, and because you're not Patrick Mahomes doesn't mean you're not the guy. If you have a guy who is capable of giving you a shot to beat Patrick Mahomes, or maybe you get lucky and you don't even have to play him. Maybe Patrick Mahomes gets hurt. Maybe somebody else knocks him out before you have to play in the AFC Championship, whatever. Like, you can't just be so scared of Patrick Mahomes and then just keep drafting quarterbacks every 5 years until you find the next Patrick Mahomes. Because you're not going to.
No, but see, that's my whole point, though, is people are so scared of Mahomes. They're like, well, we just got to reach on a quarterback. Why don't you just build the best football team? You could.
That's what they try to do. If you have a good quarterback, now we're getting into our other argument. If you have a good quarterback, you build the rest of the football team while he's cheap.
But it's all a crapshoot because nobody knows if anyone's going to be any good. That's the whole thing. If Patrick Mahomes was supposed to be this great, he would not slip to number 10 and somebody had to trade up for him. That's my whole argument. The whole draft analysis,
Dude, 9 people got drafted before him. Like, and yes, the idiot Bears took Mitchell Trubisky first. But he's a top 10 pick. Like, people knew Patrick Mahomes was going to be pretty good. I don't think they knew he was going to be what he is.
That is not how that narrative went, and that is not how it went down. Because if they knew that he was going to be this good, the Bills
that's what I'm saying.
Have traded back. The Chiefs would not have traded up from 27 to 10 to get him if they knew he was that good, because he would have already been gone.
Nobody knew he was going to be this good. What I'm saying is,
this good. But dude, the Niners needed a quarterback. The Raiders needed a quarterback. The Chiefs, or not the Chiefs, the Bears obviously needed a quarterback. The Bengals drafted John Ross. Jesus Christ. There were so many opportunities for other teams to pick a quarterback. And what we say is the most important position in football and in sports, and let him go to number 10. And it wasn't even the fact that they organically had number 10. They had to trade up. Had the Bills not made this ultimate fiasco, who knows where he could have slipped to, and his entire legacy is completely different, most likely.
That's all possible. But I feel like you're arguing for, when you have the guy, keep the guy.
But we didn't know he was the guy at the time. But
you're not paying these guys these salaries on their rookie year. You're paying them after they've established, hey, I'm either the guy or I'm not the guy. Now, you have some dumb teams who are paying guys who aren't the guy. Like, Trevor Lawrence ain't the guy. I'm sorry, Jags fans. He's not. I'm saying it right now. Unless, if I'm ever wrong, I will come back and I will apologize. Like, if he just takes leaps and bounds now that he's gotten the bag and he becomes the next coming of Aaron Rodgers, then I'll apologize to you.
Don't you do that.
All I'm saying is I will apologize to you, but he's probably not the guy. And the reason I say that is because he's been in the NFL long enough to know he probably shouldn't make $55 million a year. They're not going to pay CJ Stroud this year because if he had 1 year. That's what I'm saying. If he puts together he's not. What I'm saying is, if you put together multiple years, now you know, is this guy good enough or is he not good enough? And you got to make that decision. If you got a guy who you think is good enough, he's shown you, he's proven it to you, it's not projection anymore, then you pay that dude. You have to. Otherwise, you're back to the drawing board where you're drafting another quarterback that may or may not be good, and you might miss this time. Like, if you've got Joe Burrow in the hand, you don't say, sorry, dude, I don't think you're as good as Patrick Mahomes, so we're going to let you go and we're going to draft another guy and see if he's better than Patrick Mahomes. You just can't do it. Now, I wouldn't, like I said, Daniel Jones, I'm not paying that dude. You can move on from him. You can move on from Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion. Blake Bortles, I don't even want to talk about bad teams because we're talking about how to be a good team. I think to be a good team, number one, you have to have the guy, and the proof is in the pudding. Like, if he shows you he's the guy, you pay him. And you make sure before you have to pay him that you spend as much money as you can building a really good team around him. And that's how you at least get to the Super Bowl. And
So-
that's another argument that you and I had. You said on your own podcast, I heard you say this, that it was bullshit, that the way you build a football team is get a good young quarterback and spend money around him. Can you expound upon that, please?
Wait, you said that I said what?
Those were your exact words. I'm not making that up.
What were my exact words again?
You were talking about the narrative about how to build a Super Bowl team, the narrative of get a young, cheap quarterback and spend money on the team and build a good team around him is the way to get to the Super Bowl. Your words were, quote, that's bullshit. It's a bullshit narrative. Like, it's not real.
Yeah, I did.
You remember that? Okay, I'm making sure you remember you saying that.
No, and you brought that to me, but in a vacuum over the past 25 years, we have done this back and forth where it comes to like what? It's Mahomes, because there's that. There's what?
So
Tom Brady.
the salary cap started in 1994.
Right, but but the way that I have portrayed this is like 2000 beyond. Like rookie salaries, and those also changed after the Jamarcus Russell years. But
2000 and beyond, you've got Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, even though he didn't play in the game.
Exactly.
And Patrick Mahomes. Those are all guys who won on their rookie deal. Then you have Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and Jared Goff, who got there on the rookie deal.
So there's 5 that have won it, right?
Yes.
One of them was Tom Brady, who's the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is Patrick Mahomes, who's
the next
the
GOAT.
upcoming GOAT.
Yeah.
So you're saying in a 20-year period, 25-year period, we got 2 that are like the real crux of this works.
Yeah, then you've got your Brad Johnsons in there, historic defense. You got your you got your Trent Dilfer, historic defense.
Not first rounders and not getting paid on their, but you weren't extending it like that. That wasn't the thing.
You had cheap quarterbacks though, and you spent money on everything else around them.
They were. If you're going back to Brad Johnson, of course they were cheap. Everything was cheap back in the day.
Well, like Trent Dilfer. What I'm saying, they're not. If you have a really good quarterback, the best thing to do is to put really good players around him while he's cheap, because once you have to pay him, then you're not going to have the money to spend on the other players. Then you got to be good in the draft, right? So I think it makes sense to buy a bunch of players that you know are good because they've established they're good, put them around this young quarterback that you know at minimum has talent, and then see what happens. Now, I think that's the best formula to use to get to the Super Bowl. And you can't win it if you don't get there. Now, if you want to make the argument that's not the best way to win, well, there's some who have won, there's some who haven't won. It's about equal. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have good players, right? Like at the end of the day, we're kind of arguing semantics. But the last 6 Super Bowls have had a quarterback on their rookie deal. That's not a coincidence. I don't think so. Like, you can't tell me that really good quarterback who you don't have to spend a lot of money on, so then you can pay players.
They weren't on their rookie deal because Mahomes wasn't on his rookie deal when he won his last 2.
Yeah, somebody else was on the rookie deal in the last 6 Super Bowls. You got Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes twice, and Jared Goff.
They didn't win Super Bowls though.
They got to the Super Bowl.
Well, got to it is one thing though.
You're a Bills fan, dude. You know that's hard. I'm a Texans fan. That's hard.
It is. But what I'm saying though is like the number that we're putting on these quarterbacks, and you told me everybody who won a quarterback or who has won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It's been what, 4 or 5, and they're all either in the GOAT conversation or Hall of Famers. How many other quarterbacks have been drafted?
Right. We're talking about quarterbacks on their rookie deal. So the other quarterbacks, and I brought up the other 4 who who were not on their rookie deal, who were taking up at least 10%, and that was the GOAT again, Patrick Mahomes, or not Patrick, I'm sorry.
No, you said it right.
No. Patrick Mahomes was not taking up that much of the salary cap, though.
No,
it was Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford. Those are the only 4 quarterbacks to win when they're taking up 10% or more of the salary cap. So, right. But what I'm saying is that if you're not, let's take away the rookie. If you have a quarterback who's cheap and he's good enough to be a starter, you put as good of a team as you possibly can around him to give yourself a chance to at least get to the Super Bowl. Now, once you get there, that if it's a rookie, if he's inexperienced, obviously, other than Patrick Mahomes, who was just out of this world, like, yeah, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, they got there with a really good team around them.
Yeah, but not on the rookie deals, but not on the rookie deals, yes. As a rookie, no.
No, not as a rookie, but on their rookie deal, like while they were cheap. And that's the whole argument. While your quarterback's cheap, spend money everywhere else to put a really good team around them. That's how you get to the Super Bowl.
That's
what every team's trying to do. That's what every GM's trying to do, man.
It's what everybody's trying to do. But so it's almost kind of like,
and it's worked 6 times in the last 6 Super Bowls. That's what 49ers did. That's what Philly did. That's what Cincinnati did. That's what. Now, keep in mind. So when they drafted Patrick Mahomes, they had Alex Smith. Right. Alex Smith was a
16 weeks.
Not out of. Alex Smith was not an out of this world. Like as far as his salary. So they built a good team around Alex Smith, but they knew he wasn't getting him. They knew he wasn't getting him over the hump. But you still brought in a young, talented, cheap quarterback with a really great team around them, and you got to the Super Bowl. And that young quarterback was so good that you were able to win it. Brock Purdy hasn't won it yet. Jalen Hurts hasn't won it yet. Joe Burrow hasn't won it yet. And I get that. But
that's my point. But that's my whole point, man. If you couldn't make it work when you had them on the cheap rookie
you got
scale,
to the Super Bowl.
And I understand. Look, I get that. But if you couldn't get it done, because this is what the sports
you got
do.
to the Super Bowl.
I'm pandering to the sports sims now, man. If you couldn't get it done when you were paying him a 1/6 of his salary, what makes me think that you can find the difference between the margins to make
you just have to do it different. Now you have to draft really well. Now you can't pay. You can't pay a bunch of guys to. It's just, and like I said, it can be done. We've seen it done. Like I said, the Chiefs have done it. But you can't tell me that the goal should not be get a young quarterback while he's cheap and build a great team around him. And then what you do, you have that 2-3 year window where you're getting ready to have to pay your quarterback. Now you got to start doing your homework in the draft and drafting really well, because you're not going to be able to just throw a bunch of money at everybody. And so, like I said, the last 6 Super Bowls, it's just the data is not in your favor in that argument. That's all I'm saying.
My data is not in the favor of you getting to one.
You can't win it if you don't get there.
That's fair.
You got to get there, right? Now, once you get there, anything can happen. Yes, but it makes sense that when you get there, the guy with the more experience will likely beat you, right?
Are we sure?
Mahomes got there twice on his rookie deal. He won the first one. He lost the second one.
No,
yeah.
Yes. Okay, that's true.
Yeah, he lost to Tom Brady the second time, but
we didn't. Right. So the thing is, though, that yes, you need to be able to draft really well, and that's always been my point is stop chasing the ghost, though. Everybody's trying to chase Tom Brady. Everybody's trying to chase right now Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
And you are.
So you think everybody should just give up and wait for Patrick Mahomes to retire?
So I had to like kind of recalibrate. I was putting bacon in my head for a moment. But, like when we look at these quarterback things, man, like the salaries that Jared Goff's and Josh.
Jared Goff's been to the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game.
Okay, and they hit him.
Yeah, I'm saying, but like
Yeah. So you
What
just say,
what about
man,
Jared Goff's resume? I'm not saying he should be the top paid quarterback, but
but
he,
he
you
was
know,
at
he's
one
good
point in
enough to
time.
get you to the Super Bowl. No, he's not
No,
Patrick Mahomes, but he's good enough to get you.
The reason why you got there, though, and that's the whole reason why we're having this conversation. He's not the reason.
I'm not
why
saying
you
he's the
got
reason
there.
he got there. You can get to the Super Bowl with him as your quarterback. Can't you?
You can.
You can get to the NFC Championship game with him as your quarterback. You
But
can't
see,
say
so-
that about every other quarterback in the league.
But this is also the other reason why I have my own little mindset is what did we say about the Boston Celtics? They had the weakest run to a playoff. There can be also, you had a really easy path. Now it's professional sports, and I get that. And there's always kind of that back and forth of, you can only play who's in front of you, right? You can only be present at the moment, but you can also discern your level of competition is not the best. So Celtics.
You know what we're gonna do, Prescott? When does Madden 25 come out?
Oh, I don't know, because you said you weren't going to buy it.
No, I'm buying Madden this year. You and I are gonna do an online league, and I will be the GM of the Texans, and you will be the GM of the Bills. And I want you to build your football team the way you say you should build a football team. I'll build mine.
Bro. Come on, my ass.
And I think we should settle this once and for all with the ironclad 100% foolproof plan of playing John Madden. My thing is okay, so I don't even know if we're going to settle this debate, because for me, let's get back on track and talk about the two separate debates. I want to separate them. The first one was, should you pay your quarterback what the market demands to pay the quarterback? You say you wouldn't. And I say it depends on who that is. You're not, like, Patrick Mahomes probably won't be in the draft again for another 20, 30 years. So you can't just keep searching for Patrick Mahomes in the draft. If you got a guy who gives you a chance, I don't care if it's, let's pretend, because Jared Goff just got a bag too.
That
Pretend he didn't though. Detroit lets him go. Pretend he didn't. Detroit lets him go. Who should be the quarterback of the Lions that gives you more faith and more hope than Jared Goff?
Well, now you raise an interesting point, because I agree to that, because I've always done this exact same comparison with coaching. We'll get rid of this coach. Well, who are you gonna get who's better? But that is my point, is that when it comes to the skill positions at offense, like wide receiver, running back, you can get almost the exact same stats if you're looking statistically. Okay, just yards, touchdowns, interceptions. You can get almost the exact same numbers from damn near every quarterback that there is. The difference is, do you have the coaching scheme? Do you have the mental capacity to be able to convert on third downs and not go for the bomb? Like there's certain levels to all of this. So
there's been a lot of serviceable quarterbacks in the league.
But see, that's my whole point, man, is like everything is circumstantial. So again, if Patrick Mahomes got drafted to the Bears, he'd be booty juice, and his legacy is completely different.
But all I'm saying is the only serviceable quarterbacks who have won the Super Bowl had historic defenses around them. And
that is why I say you don't pay the marginal quarterback, you pay the team.
Right. But we agree on that. I think where we stop agreeing is that you don't think the likes of Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, possibly CJ Stroud, I'm gonna make him prove it to me for another couple of years before I put him in that conversation. He had a really good start. Deshaun Watson, his first 3 years in the league, I would have paid him too. Was he Patrick Mahomes his first 3 years? No, he was not. Matter of fact, he was up 24-0 on Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes proceeded to wax that ass. They literally lost that lead in like 3 minutes, man. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
24-0?
They were up 24-0 on Kansas City. Like in the first quarter, I think. And then like
it was definitely the first half.
It was the first half, yeah. And I know at the end of the first quarter, it was like 21-0. Like it was crazy. And Kansas City erased that lead in less than half a
They were
quarter.
the Golden State Warriors of football.
Yes,
back.
absolutely. So my thing is that you're not finding Patrick Mahomes in the draft. So I would not, if you're not Patrick Mahomes, sorry, got to let you go. We're going to draft another quarterback and be okay. If you're trying to win the Super Bowl, like I said, whether you're the highest paid or not, like most of the Super Bowl winning teams had at minimum serviceable quarterback play, except for Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer was terrible in the Super Bowl. That was a historic defense. Joe Flacco actually played out of his mind when he won the Super Bowl. Like, is he an all-time great? No, but like you had good quarterback play. If you got the guy, even though he's not Patrick Mahomes, you got to pay him what the market dictates. Where do we draw the line? Maybe that's where you and I differ. I think we agree if you have the guy, you got to pay him though.
The reason why I have some, and we talked about this earlier. I'm
starting to understand why you don't think Paul Pierce is an all-time great too. Like I'm getting, like your standard, you must be the best. No, listen, you have got to be the greatest car salesman on the planet.
4 different times, and I know you want to get to it.
This is what I'm saying. I know you're probably the greatest car salesman in history, and that's why you expect somebody to be the greatest. If you're not the GOAT, then you ain't nothing.
No, bro. Again, everything that you see behind me, not
if you're not the GOAT. But that's, and that may be why. Maybe being a Bills fan has made you like cynical or jaded. I don't know. But like,
I've told you this before, and I'm cynical and jaded, and like everything is hell, bro.
I get it, man. But like, the standard can't be if you're not Patrick Mahomes, you don't deserve $55 million.
No.
That can't be it.
No, that's not what I've said. Once again, you and the people that
I'm not twisting your words. You said you shouldn't pay the quarterbacks. Like obviously
you shouldn't pay. I said that nobody should pay Patrick Mahomes money except for to Patrick Mahomes. Those were my exact words. Nobody should get paid more than him.
I agree with that.
Those were my words.
But economics, it's not going to work out that way. Eventually, somebody's going to make more than him, and then Patrick Mahomes will get extended, and he'll make more than them. But what I'm saying is, like, you're going to have people who are in his vicinity at least, like a Joe Burrow. Trevor Lawrence doesn't belong there.
No, they live in his neighborhood, but it's not their house.
Agreed. But if you want a chance, chance to beat him, you got to pay the bird in the hand. You can't just be like, I'll just build a really good team around a number one draft pick. First of all, if you
with you and the whole like bird in the hand thing, because you love that turn of phrase. You use it like 19 times a day, bro.
I'm sorry, because that's you've got it. It's in your hand. Like you've got the guy. You can let him go and hope you get another one, but you got him. You got him. Man, we talked about this a really long time, and I think we still disagree, unfortunately. But that's cool. That's what I love sports debate. What I want to do, because I'm going to have to get out of here like probably in the next 30 minutes. So I want to talk about Stephon Diggs really quick because
oh my God, please do.
I want to talk about Stephon Diggs really quick because you have a very unique perspective being a Buffalo Bills fan. Let me ask the question, Stephon Diggs no longer being a Buffalo Bill, good thing or a bad thing?
Is it bad for the Bills?
Yes.
I think it depends on what perspective you're looking at it from. If you're looking from a talent standpoint, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
From a money standpoint, it's also terrible. There really isn't a whole lot of upside except for the fact that you and I, we talk about this every once in a while. We're like, sometimes you just have to kind of reset the clock, and it feels like Buffalo is completely doing it. And it's not completely related to Stephon Diggs, but they let go of Tre'Davious White. You know, they let go of Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. Like that entire defense is basically shot, especially from the secondary standpoint, which isn't Stephon's fault, but it does seem like they are willing to this is rebuild mode. And this is the work. Whatever you see of, and I don't want to be this definitive, but this might, besides year 1 and year 2 of Josh Allen, this is going to be, in my opinion, the worst version of a passing perspective you've ever seen of Josh Allen in the NFL realm.
Vegas has him in the MVP discussion, man.
Because guess what? He gets touchdowns, but nobody looks. That's the thing about being a Bills fan, man. Like, nobody really watches them as close as real Bills fans do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that he's bad, and people always twist my words on him. If you let Josh Allen be elite, Josh Allen, he'll be elite, but he's going to something up. He just is.
So does he need Stephon Diggs or no?
What's that?
Does he need Stephon Diggs or no?
The only reason I would say, does he need Stephon Diggs now? I would say no.
Okay.
Only because of where he is age-wise. If you're telling me this 3 years ago,
okay,
yes, he absolutely needs it.
So losing Stephon Diggs at the end of the day is not that big of a deal then?
No, it's a big deal for this year, but it's not big enough of a deal where it's going to matter where they could even. I don't see, had they had Stephon Diggs, they wouldn't get past the AFC. I think they get bounced in the wild card round.
Okay.
But without him, I don't think they even make the playoffs. So it's not a huge deal for me because they're not going to be that good.
I'm just trying to get a gauge on how much you value Stephon Diggs, because obviously I'm looking at this from a Texans fan perspective. So
sure,
you watched Stephon Diggs play for 4 years, right? He was there for 4 years?
Yeah,
okay.
3 or 4 years, yeah.
So Stephon Diggs, let's put aside for a second. We'll talk about the off the field stuff. Stephon Diggs as a football player, how does he impact the game? How will he make things improved for the Texans?
Well, the thing about it, see what had happened was. So I have no idea what he's going to look like with you guys, but what I am going to say is that.
You know how he impacts a football game, though. What did he do for Josh Allen? Because you said Allen was cheeks before he got there. So what did he do for Allen?
Wait, you said that he was cheeks before.
You said Allen was cheeks before Stephon got there. So what did Stephon do for Allen that he could possibly do for CJ?
So the one thing that I've always told people is, like, when you're trying to play people at a position, they're going to play incorrectly, right? So before Stephon Diggs got there, they had John Brown as their number 1, Cole Beasley, fat Kelvin Benjamin, broken Charles Clay, and broken LaShawn McCoy. Essentially, that was their squad.
Yeah. And
then they got Stephon Diggs, and they got a true number 1, and their wide receivers got to be where they're supposed to be. And I'm not saying that Tank Dell or Nico Collins can't be number 1 or number 2s, because I feel like they can be. But Diggs, I think, is going to attract enough attention to really open things up for both of them for, I would say, 1 more year, maybe 2 at the very tops. This seems like almost like a rental when you saw with Toronto when they acquired Kawhi Leonard. This is a rental. We know that he's exponentially better than, at the time, DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, I don't think Stephon Diggs will be a Texan after this season, to be honest with you. Unless, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't think he will be.
And I'm not saying that he won't be there, but I'm saying, like, I feel like they got him for, like, this season, maybe 1 more. But I feel like he can really attract more attention on one-on-one coverage, and then Nico and Tank can even more excel, which is also going to open up more running lanes for your running backs. That's kind of the way that I look at it.
Here's the things I like to see. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Here's the things I like to see in a wide receiver. You tell me, does Stephon Diggs do these things? Because I don't watch a lot of Buffalo football. I want a guy who runs his route even if he knows he's not getting the ball. Does Stephon Diggs do that?
Most of the time.
Okay.
You name me a wide receiver who does it all the time, though.
Andre Johnson. DeAndre Hopkins.
You know what? That's the only one that I can think of as well.
Calvin Johnson.
Well played.
Calvin Johnson. Okay.
Dude, Calvin was my number 2.
Okay.
God, you beat me to
run blocking. Like I want a wide receiver. Is he going to give effort? Because dogging it is what will put your quarterback in harm's way. It will affect everybody else on the team. So all I want I don't need him to get 1,500 yards, 100 catches, 20 touchdowns. Like I don't need that from him. I need him to be a good teammate. Don't need
that. But if he's trying to get another bag, though.
The thing about CJ Stroud, man, is he spreads the ball around. You want the ball, get open. He'll get it to you. But like he doesn't zero in on one guy. And that's probably everybody's biggest worry. Like that was my biggest worry when I found out they canceled the rest of his contract and that he's going to be a free agent after this year. Because it could go one of two ways. Either he's going to ball out because he wants to get that bag, or if he's not getting the touches he wants, it could go south. And I think that's the reason. Look, the Texans, I think they know the scenario that they're in. And they're like, that's why we'll say, hey, let's make him a free agent after this year. At the end of the day, all we're risking is one season. It either goes really well or it goes really bad.
Do you think D'Amico knew that going into it, and that's the reason why he made that kind of aggressive trade? Because D'Amico seems like he's really in tune.
Do I think he knew that they were going to wipe out the rest of his contract?
Well, do you think that D'Amico knew that if they pulled the trigger that he would, like the Texans would be able to sign Stephon Diggs to a multi-year deal?
No, I don't think anybody in the Texans organization envisions him being here for multiple years, unless because they just paid Nico Collins. He's like the 8th highest paid wide receiver in the league now. I don't see them spending the type of money that Stephon Diggs wants. On Stephon Diggs.
Take into consideration that like every year, because the NFL is just this absolute monster for ratings and numbers and money, that they pay Nico, but then Tank, and then there's Stingley, and then there's I think you pay for good free agents while those guys are still cheap. Back to that conversation. Yeah. If Nico has, I've criticized the Nico extension on this show multiple times. I thought it came too soon because he only had one good year. He had 2 years where he was like all practice team the first 2 years. We talking about practice?
Yeah, he was all practice squad for the first 2 years. And then he gets CJ Stroud and he has a really good year. But how much of that is, it's kind of the reverse of what you said with Allen and Diggs. Because I don't want to hear the excuse of he didn't have a good quarterback, because this organization has had really good receivers with bad quarterbacks put up numbers. I mentioned that a couple of times in previous shows. So
sure,
I criticized that move. Tank Dell, still early, but I think you purchase the type of free agents that you're purchasing now, the Danielle Hunters, the Stephon Diggs. Well, that was a trade, but you know what I mean. You pay those type of players while your homegrown talent is still cheap. And then once you have to pay all of those guys, which hopefully they'll continue to produce and they will get paid, then you go back to trying to draft it. So I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the Diggs thing. I don't think anybody had any delusions that Stephon Diggs was going to be a permanent figure on this team. I just don't think anybody thought that.
No, and permanent I think is the right word, because nobody thinks that. But let me ask you this. Is there any point of view, now that you mentioned that, because you're in Texas and you have obviously 2 different professional football teams, do you see that maybe because he's on the last year of his contract, got traded, and then gets cut because of his
he had like 3 years left, and then they just waxed. I didn't even know you could do that.
Right.
They decided, hey, let's put all your money up front, and they whacked off the last 3 years of it. And I think they did that because they know, number one, after next year, they're probably gonna have to pay CJ. Like they're not going to, I don't think they're giving him a long-term deal. I just don't. I think they brought him in for what he can do now. I think they're going all in for now. They're trying to go all in while CJ's cheap.
In regards to Diggs?
Yeah, I think if anything, maybe he says, hey, I'll play one more year on the franchise tag. I doubt it. I doubt it.
I doubt it too, man. By the end of next year, that's going to be like 20 $6.5 million or something stupid.
Yeah. So my thing is that I was just curious from the outside perspective, and you have an interesting perspective because you are a Bills fan, and so Stephon Diggs played for your team. So what we've established is that the AFC South has overall been regarded cheeks. It might get better this year.
They should get relegated to the SEC.
Oh, come on. It's not been that bad.
I'm joking, man.
Who do you think the best quarterback in the AFC South is?
Don't do that, man. I know it's not Will Levis. I know it's not Mayo.
Don't tell Titans fans that.
Don't tell them that to the face, man. Will Levis is.
Yeah, man. You know what? I don't disagree with you. I think if it's not CJ, it's Anthony Richardson. And I know he only played 3 games.
Yeah, he only played like 9 more snaps than Aaron Rodgers did.
But he balled out in those 3 games. And he's pretty reckless. I hope he can. I want the AFC South to be good. Like, I hated winning the AFC South when every other team was, as you would call them, doo-doo butter. Like, I want to be in a good division. I want to be a competitive team. I don't mind having the hard schedule. That makes it more interesting to me. So I'm just curious from an outsider. You're trying to avoid this question, though. Who's got the best quarterback?
If you're asking me right now who I think has the best quarterback in the division, the AFC South, I would still say CJ Stroud at the moment. But I don't like to say things off of 1-year sample sizes.
But that's all we got. So that's all.
True.
That's all we got. True. In this 1 year, he was the better quarterback.
Houston has the best quarterback in the division.
Thank you. Oh man, dude. I knew we were gonna have to do a part 1 and a part 2 to this show. I'm not even gonna be able to get into the state of the Houston Rockets, and we're not gonna be able to argue NBA all-time greats this time. We'll have to do it next time because I gotta get out of here. I promised my daughter I'd take her to see Inside Out 2, and we're supposed to be there in like half an hour. So,
Nick loves his daughter.
Let me ask you really quick about the NBA Finals. I want to play this state of the Houston Texans or Houston Rockets. Okay, NBA Finals are over. Celtics won their 18th championship. Speaking of all-time greats, this is what really bothers me. No. Like I was about to say that Jason Tatum got the monkey off his back. And that's crazy because Jason Tatum is 26 years old. At 26 years old, we're like, hey, have you at what point are you going to reach the pinnacle of your entire career and do something that only 10% of NBA players have done and win a championship? Otherwise, you're a bum. Like, people are acting like this dude should have won a championship already. He's 26. He's 26. How old was LeBron when he won his first one? I think he was 26, wasn't he?
I believe so because he came.
I believe he was 26
because he came in the league in 2003, and then I think 2011. 8 years.
I think we were putting
by seasons wise.
I don't want to say we. I think there's far too high of a standard put on these players that if you ain't the GOAT, then you ain't ish. I don't like that.
No. You can say we because I share the same sentiment.
But you don't think Paul Pierce is an all-time great.
And this is the reason I ask you all the time, where do we draw the line?
Nowhere near Paul Pierce. There's a line. And Paul Pierce ain't nowhere near it. Neither is Chris Paul. Neither is Jason Kidd. Neither is Kevin Garnett. Like, those are undisputably great all-time greats. Nobody that I just said is even close to the line.
How many people do we put in the caveat of all-time greats? Where is the number for you?
I don't know that there's a number. Like, it's the eye test, dude. Because just because you're not an all-time great, just because you're not an all-time great, okay, just because you're not an all-time great doesn't mean you're not great. Like, I don't know if you saw it because you made this post on your social media. I listed a ton of great players who are not all-time greats. The Jamal Crawfords of the world, the Oh man, I wish I had my phone so I could like go through the whole list. Jamal Crawford,
Tyson Chandler?
Tyson Chandler. Thank you.
Not Chandler Parsons.
No, not Chandler Parsons. Steve. Okay, Steve Francis was a great player, not an all-time great.
No.
There's so many examples. I would put Meta World Peace as a great player who is not an all-time great.
Right. So why are you mentioning 40 different players who aren't all-time greats? I'm saying, where do we draw the line of where we put the demarcation of all-time greats? Because
if you're in the top 75, if you're a Hall of Fame player, if there's only 15 people who have scored more points than you in the NBA history, do you know that 4,800 people have played in the NBA and only 15 people have scored more points than you? You are an all-time great. He's in the top 100 in points. He's in the top 100 in points, rebounds, and assists.
So
out of 4,800 people who have played in this league.
So let me ask you this.
And he's a champion. He's been all NBA 4 times.
He is an
all-star 10 times.
So he's a one-time champion.
Yes.
Where do we draw the line on what is
Charles Barkley's a 0-time champion? Is he an all-time great?
What is the line of demarcation of all-time great? Because even Jerry West, who is the logo,
is an all-time great,
and who lost all of his finals except for one.
Okay. So this is an example of you when you argue against yourself, because sometimes you say it's not all about getting the chip, and then sometimes you say it's about who has got the chips. Sometimes you say it's not about the numbers. Sometimes you say it is about the numbers. I'm sorry, dude. Go ahead.
No, Nick. Here's what I'm saying.
I got to get out of here in 3 minutes, so let's go.
What I am saying is, I don't subscribe to that rule. I am trying to apply the exact same logic that everybody else throws at things. But when it comes to Paul Pierce, what is it? Where is the line? Because you're right. You're throwing words in my mouth.
The line is he's one of the best basketball players to ever play. And the numbers and the eye test, and the eye test tell you that. And he played for 20 years.
No, so here's the thing. The eye test tells me that he, like, Luka Doncic is like Caucasian Paul Pierce, but the rules are
He's different. Caucasian James Harden. Yes. They play almost the exact same. He's Caucasian James Harden.
That actually might be a better.
They're like the exact same player. That's why it irritates me when people are like, I've never seen anything like Luka Doncic. Yes, you have. It's called 2018 James Harden. The exact same player. Exact same player.
But my point is, where do we put the line of?
I don't know where the line is, but it's nowhere near Paul Pierce, bro. I told you, Jamal Crawford. There's a lot of
Jamal Crawford who has been a 6-time. That he's a 6th man of the year 5 times.
If you notice Jamal Crawford, I said he's great, not an all-time great, and I put that he was borderline. Amari Stoudemire is a great player who is not an all-time great.
You are using the most outlandish comparisons to Paul Pierce. What are we doing with greatest of all times? Like,
what?
Are you capping it off at top 10?
No,
20,
I'm saying there's great players and then there's all-time greats.
Right, but where do we put the mark of all-time great, though?
Paul Pierce is nowhere near that line. I don't know where it is, but Paul Pierce is nowhere near it.
So he's not.
There's only 15 people who have scored more points than him in NBA history.
So let me ask you this. So you're telling me that he's nowhere close to being in the top greatest of all time?
I'll tell you who's borderline. Tracy McGrady, borderline. Now, that's not his fault.
I wouldn't even put Tracy McGrady in like one of the most all-time great players.
That's what I'm saying. He's borderline. I think he's a great. He could have been an all-time great. I qualify him as great. I don't know where the line is. I just know who's an all-time great and who isn't. I just know that. I don't know. Like, I'm not ranking any of them. I know Jamal Crawford's a great player. He's not an all-time great. I know that Paul Pierce is an all-time great. His numbers in the eye test.
So no, the reason why I protest is because, again, I'm doing this by the metrics of what people put these things as. If he never won
All
that
pro 4
championship
times.
in a-
All NBA 4 times.
4 times, and he
All-star.
played for what? He played for what? 19 years.
A first team All NBA is hard to make, dude. Like there's only 5 people who make that.
That's fair.
There's only
but
5 people who make that. Okay,
But-
he was an all-star 11 or 13, somewhere between 10 and 15 times. He was an all-star.
But let me ask you this. What if, and I know we don't like doing this because I already told you I don't like doing the what ifs, but I also like the what ifs because it creates conversation.
Mhm.
What if the Celtics in 08 never won that championship?
He's still an all-time great.
Is he?
Yes. It has nothing to do with the championships. Charles Barkley won 0 championships.
Well, I get to love him. You don't get to. That's
Charles
not fair.
Barkley is one of the greatest players of all time.
You're hijacking my love for Charles Barkley.
No,
I don't
I'm
like
telling you
man.
that the fact that Paul Pierce only has 1 championship has nothing to do with whether he's an all-time great or not.
But this kind of
A guy on your page said Kevin Garnett was not an all-time great. He won MVP.
Bro, so no. That's bad, and you're doing it again. No.
Did he not say Kevin Garnett? Somebody on your page said Kevin Garnett was the line. Kevin Garnett is nowhere near. You asked, where's the line? And somebody said Kevin Garnett. Another guy said Chris Paul. Another guy said Jason Kidd. Those people are nowhere near the line of all-time great.
Way above him.
They're above. I'm not talking about Paul Pierce. I'm talking about what? Okay, you believe Paul Pierce is the line, correct?
No, I need to know where.
Or you
the
think he's
line
below
is
it?
because you think that Paul Pierce is the line.
No, I think Paul Pierce is nowhere near the line. He is an all-time great. It's not even close. He's not close to not being an all-time great. This is what I'm saying, dude. Like your standards, like I would hate to work for you. I would hate to work for you because nothing I could do. Bro, the NBA's been around for 75 years.
I know.
4,800 people have played in it.
When people
15 people have scored more points than him.
Bro, the people who say it's a top 75 list or a top 50 list, that list was created like 20 plus years ago.
No, it wasn't. They redid it. They did it for 50 years, and they redid it for 75. Some people who were on the 50 fell off. They didn't make the 75.
It's still Paul Pierce to me. I am not saying that he was not awesome because you and I talked about this. Well, we didn't talk about it off air, but I've texted you about this.
Okay.
When the Celtics were trash. And
this is your mic drop moment, okay? So you make sure you bring it because I got to end this. So this is your mic drop moment. I need you to explain to me why Paul Pierce is not an all-time great.
Because you have not expressed to me where the line of demarcation is in all-time great.
You just said you don't do rankings. I don't do rankings either. I don't know where the line is. Name the player and I'll tell you if he's an all-time great and I'll tell you why.
No, bro. You've had 3 weeks to figure this out.
Go read my list. Go read my list. I named like 15 great non-all-time great players.
Kevin Garnett is better than Paul Pierce.
Yes, he is.
Chris Paul is better than Paul Pierce. If those are the other two that you're giving me, then yes.
No. I made you a list of great players who were not all-time greats. They're the line. Wherever you can rank them however you want, but they are an example of a non-all-time great who was great. I told you, Jamal Crawford, Meta World Peace, Tyson Chandler, Steve Francis,
dude, those
Amari
guys
Stoudemire. Those guys are great players who are not all-time greats.
Exactly, but you're lowering the bar for like to improve your argument of like Amari. Nobody thinks Amari Stoudemire on the
everyone
NBA
on the top 75 list is an all-time great, and there's some players who didn't make it who should be considered all-time greats, like Dwight Howard.
Now that I give you what I agree with you 100%. That dude has been getting so much forever. That dude needs to be in the top.
Kyrie Irving could have possibly made that list.
I think so too. Knocking out Paul Pierce from 49 to 50.
So maybe after top 75, maybe you start getting into the murky waters of maybe not all-time great. But like I said, some of the guys who were not in the top 75 fell off because there was 25, like they were in the top 50 list though. Like we're talking about like Bob Cousy. We can probably take him out of the top 75. If Bob Cousy played today, he would get his ass waxed. Imagine Bob Cousy guarding Kyrie Irving.
But see, that's the thing.
I got to get out of here.
If you're asking me if Paul Pierce is a top 75 player ever, I would probably say yes. But if you're telling me all-time great, we can't extend the all-time great to 75.
How can you have 4,800
4,800
players and you're in the top 75 and you're not an all-time great? 4,800 people have played at least one game in the NBA. And you're top 75, and that's not all-time great.
We have to have a conversation about that, but you just kicked Bob Cousy out, and I swear to God, every Caucasian who lives in Texas is coming for your ass, and they can't find me up here, bro.
I don't know for sure that I kicked Bob. I'd have to sit down and go over the list.
Those were your words.
I'd have to sit. Bob Cousy is at close to the bottom of the top 75. I'll just put it that way. He's close to the bottom. Bob Cousy used to play against guys who had jobs on the weekend. Like they were firemen. Okay. Guys, I know. Dude, we should have started this like 3 hours ago. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I want to make sure I shout out Choppin It Up with PScott. You can find him on Spotify. You can find him on Apple. Please follow him on Facebook. Are you on the gram?
I am. It's the same Choppin PScott, but there's an underscore every single Choppin It.
Okay. Yeah. And you need to get on X so we can live stream there as well.
Don't say that. I don't need any more.
I know. But you guys follow him on the socials, listen to his podcast. I have all the links in the description of this video. Really quick, if you want to support the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, I also have links to my tip jar. I have affiliate links in there, and continue doing what you've been doing, listening, watching, sharing. I appreciate all of you very much. PScott, thank you so much for doing this, man. We're going to have to do it again soon. I would say overall, despite the fact that we did what PScott loves to do, man, we went on a few tangents, didn't we? Despite all of that, though, I would say the State of the Union for Houston sports is very strong. We just got to stop letting Jacksonville, Tennessee, Indy, and we got to stop letting all of those fans make us be toxic along with them. Like, we have the best team in the AFC South. It's good enough for us. Let's just leave it at that.
I told you guys.
We've got the best team in the AFC South. Let them hate. Let them come for us. It's fine. But in the meantime, State of the Union in Houston is good. Thank you so much, PScott. I want to say to all of you guys, I will see you next Thursday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Maybe. In the meantime, I want you to stay 10 toes down for H-Town. Thank you so much. I love you. We'll see you next time.
This has been the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, hosted by Nick Stevenson. Tune in next week for more news and analysis of your favorite Houston teams. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, the app, formerly known as Twitter, if that's even really still a thing. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
I wasn't sure if I was connected or not, but can you still hear me?